Hey guys, how are we doing? So I've recently finished watching Kakegurui on Netflix. It was interesting. I'll put it that way. It was definitely different. And then I noticed that Mother's Basement has done a few videos on Kakegurui, so I thought may as well check them out because Kakegurui's fresh in my head, and these could be interesting. And I think this is going to be good because the OP was actually quite decent for Kakegurui, even though it kind of it's one of those, if you pay too much attention to the OP as you're watching the series, you kind of realise sometimes it's telling the story of the anime, like the progression anyway. Angel of Death is a really good example of that. If you've been watching that, you may have noticed it. I noticed it episode 7. I was like, oh right, so the next episode she's going to be doing this, going to be doing that, because yeah, anyway, let's get into this. This is What's in an OP, Kakegurui's plot decoded.
From the moment the first episode aired, you guys have been asking me to cover Kakegurui's opening, and I really can't blame you. This Sayo Yamamoto-directed opening is a wild, bombastic, psychosexual trip, not to mention packed to the brim with manga references. It manages to encapsulate the first 6 volumes of the manga into just a minute and a half, giving JoJo and Mob Psycho 100 a run for their money. Obviously, that means this video is going to contain manga spoilers, but if you want to get caught up in a hurry, Bookwalker, Kadokawa's manga and light novel ebook store, is releasing this manga simultaneously in English as it comes out in Japan.
That's cool.
40-page chapters are just $2 a pop, and by using the promo code BASEMENT for a 600 yen discount, you can get the first volume for just over $1.
That's
cool. Way, if you're a fan of No Game No Life, then you're going to want to stick around to the end of this video to find out how using the promo code
how much
BASEMENT
loot anime stuff he's got in the background there. It's amazing.
A beautiful No Game No
I'm
Life
recognising some of the stuff that I've got.
A gorgeous PVC figurine of Shiro. But for now, without further ado, let's get into analyzing things.
Cool.
Kakegurui's opening kicks off, literally, with the legs of 3 different girls doing a little dance in front of a trippy background. Through the science of Zettai Ryoki analysis, we can determine that these are Yumeko, Mary-chan, and Kirari Momobami, the student council president. Let's get the elephant in the room, or should I say the fish, out of the way immediately. All of the fish and fruits floating around in the background of the opening are also references specifically to Kirari's perception of Hyako Private Academy. At multiple points, the student council president refers to the school as both her personal Garden of Eden and a private aquarium full of exotic fish that she gets to watch devour each other, which goes a long way toward explaining all of the dinner table imagery in this OP as well.
Cool.
On a pair of these tables, we see Mary and Kirari laid out and ready to be eaten, which Yumeko looks all too eager to do.
Yeah, she's
the series is known for its ahegao expressions, that would be sex faces for the uninitiated, so it's good to see that they kept those in the opening as well. Before we move on, I just want to pause for a second to appreciate the way that this OP uses its titles. Having them fall in and out of place chaotically and twitch erratically along with the music is a nice touch that adds to the crazy atmosphere of this OP. On top of that, the animation of Yumeko dancing between the tables is really slick, which it should be because they use it twice, and it gives you an immediate sense of her playful and incurably hedonistic personality. As she dances off screen, we jump to the title, overlaid with a pair of suggestive outstretched legs. This OP has a real thing for conflating the pleasures of gambling, eating, and sex. Speaking of sex, from the title, we jump to an upskirt shot of Saotome Mary using Ryota, who is her pet at the start of the story, as a chair. Gigic wanted me to provide an in-depth analysis of this shot in particular, if you know what I mean, but I think the meaning is actually pretty obvious. This shot connects the concept of gambling once again to titillation, as does this next highly suggestive between the leg shot of Yumeko looking at Mary. In just about any film, this kind of shot typically suggests 2 things. First, that the person with the legs is in a position of power over the person between them, and secondly, that they're about to fuck, which they kind of do as long as you consider gambling to be sex, which Yumeko certainly does.
She definitely does. She's
certainly in a position of power here, considering that she plays Mary for the entire game without her realizing it's happening. Something really interesting about this shot is that Mary is framed underneath one of the arches that surrounds them, while Yumeko stands between 2 other arches, her head uncovered. Decoded. These arches show up around every major character in this OP, and they're quite the interesting symbol. Arches are frequently seen at the entrances to casinos, so they have an entrenched association with gambling. But traditionally, they also represent divine protection of the people underneath them, which is why they're frequently used in weddings. All of the antagonists are framed under an arch made from their gambling implements of choice, symbolizing the protection they gain from cheating with those implements. The first time we see Yumeko, she's standing without that protection, showing her willingness to take true risks where other people don't. Yumeko picks out one of the rock, paper, scissors cards from the first game that she plays against Mary. Ryota knows that Mary is cheating and gives Yumeko a worried look, but Mary socks him in the back of the head to keep him in line.
Yeah, it's like,
as
you'll
we
be quiet,
pan up to her face, we briefly see her glancing deviously at her own hand before giving more of an innocent look to the camera, again confirming that she's cheating. Next up, we see Itsuki kissing Yumeko's foot, specifically her toenail, which is just dense with double meaning. Firstly, the more obvious meaning is that Itsuki collects other people's nails and gambles Yumeko for the right to rip hers off her fingers, which would be pretty fucked up if she actually did it. Unfortunately for Itsuki, she loses this match, which eventually leads to the second meaning of this shot. Later in the story, during the Idol Showdown arc, Itsuki ends up switching sides from the student council and pledging her allegiance to Yumeko, hoping that she'll overthrow the council president and take over the school. Itsuki eventually puts her life on the line for Yumeko over a hand of poker, which makes this positioning very appropriate. This also gives extra meaning to the double arch of cards behind the two of them, which you'd initially think is simply a symbolic representation of the two decks of rigged cards that Itsuki uses in her memory game. During the poker game against Kaede, though, their intertwined fates are put up as collateral, with the cards being the only thing that can protect them. We zoom away from the pair through the opera goggles of Yuriko and into her culture club's gambling den. The arch behind her encircles the rigged sword roulette board that she uses to build up her club's coffers. With a wicked smile and an equally wicked twang of the bass, we zoom out to see Yuriko's dealer holding her dice cup, as well as Umaru's stand-in Runa playing games and eating snacks in her kigurumi over in the corner. The forest of trees behind Yuriko, picked almost bare save for a handful of ripe fruits, is a visual metaphor for the way that she's amassed wealth by cheating the people who come to gamble with her. Following this, we cut to Midari, the head of the beautification committee, holding a revolver to the head of some faceless girl who's been strung up upside down. This is something that happens after the debt meeting that's currently happening in the anime, which the OP skips over because it's only really interested in showing us the student council, not the minor villain of that arc. The arch above her is inlaid with the symbol cards used to play the ESP game that she plays against Yumeko, while the lattice behind her is reminiscent of the grid that they actually play that game on. While the upside-down girl's face is replaced with a strawberry, it's pretty easy to tell from the way that she's dressed that she's actually also Midari. So when Midari splatters her head with the revolver, which is totally okay to show on TV because, you know, it's a strawberry. It actually shows us her near suicidal fetish for putting herself in danger, rather than any sort of violent
so weird.
The stage that we see next and the arch of D10s around Yumemi are both references to the idol competition that she holds to take
they use
down
those big die, don't
the
they?
D10s being used to decide which idol contest they'll play next. Both of these shots are mostly just straightforward references, but she sure looks cute, don't she?
Yeah.
Kaede seems nonplussed by her cuteness as he sits in the back of the auditorium between Runa and the vice president, both of whom have had their heads replaced with limes. This could be a reference to the fact that the president is secretly wearing the vice president's mask as a disguise in this scene, while Runa secretly betrayed Yumemi's plans behind the scene. Kaede is also sitting underneath an arch of limes and playing cards, which are color negative because the poker game that he plays with them allows for the lowest hand to win.
Oh yeah, of course, don't
they
go for lower or higher?
We see Mary looking back at Kaede. She's framed alone in the audience because she, as a non-member of the fan club, is the random element that throws a wrench into Yumemi and Kaede's plans. Next, we see a beautifully animated shot of Yumeko and Yumemi dancing together, which syncs up perfectly with the music and really represents a key plot point. Yumemi and Yumeko teaming up against Kaede after their competition. Also, it must be said that idol Yumeko is bae. The next shot of Student Council Secretary Sayaka falling into water, followed by President Kirari, seems like a straightforward Yuri bait shot on the surface, and they totally are in lesbians with each other in the show, but there's more to it than that. It's actually a reference to the end of the Tower of Doors arc, where Sayaka jumps off the tower as part of losing her bet, and the president jumps after her. Once they hit the crash mat hidden under the field at the foot of the tower, the president licks a bloody bruise on Sayaka's forehead, pretty much exactly like she does here. This has led a lot of manga readers to suspect that the anime will go all the way to the end of Volume 6, which would be a nice, conclusive place to end the series, but also kind of crazy since that would mean covering 18 40-page chapters in the next 8 episodes of the show. However, it could end a lot earlier, since the next shot of all of the girls indulging in cocktails while Midari indulges in a mock suicide contains an image of Mary and Itsuki sharing a glass that's very similar to a panel from chapter 42 of the manga, which came out right before the show started airing. Now, that may not be a reference at all, but if it is, the show obviously isn't going to go that far, and it may not get as far as the character shots sneakily summarize either, though as we're about to see, it probably will. Now, as for the drinking shot itself, it's pretty simple, and it mainly serves just to give us a cute, creative snapshot of the alliances that form over the course of the story, and build up to the confrontation between Yumeko and the president. Following this, we see Yumeko running excitedly to eat something with the exact same animation they used at the start of the OP. Only this time, it's herself on the table. She climbs up to dig in with another one of those ultra-suggestive between-the-leg shots that we mentioned earlier, and then buries her face in her own breasts. This shot demonstrates that Yumeko's all-consuming need to gamble is at once self-destructive and self-gratifying, and is maybe the best masturbation metaphor I've ever seen, especially from a show that's not afraid to put the real thing on screen. I have a sneaking suspicion that Yumeko might be replaced by the president and vice president in a later revision of this OP as well, once it's revealed that the two of them are twins. This is a perfect place to put that plot twist. Next up, it's a nervous Ryota's turn on the table, as almost all of the girls we've seen previously line up to take a bite of him. This neatly sums up his position at the start of the story as everyone's whipping boy, and the mixing of gambling cards and poker chips with the food on the table is a nice little touch. Their meal is interrupted as Yumeko crawls across the table to devour Ryota herself, and several of them seem to be upset that she's taking him away, most notably Mary. Ryota doesn't look too happy about this either, but as she starts digging in, she instead loosens his tie, which seems to be more than a little sexually gratifying for the both of them, especially Yumeko, who likes it so much that she explodes into bubbles. This shot highlights Ryota's sexual attraction to Yumeko, as well as the way that she encourages him to loosen up and take more risks as the series goes on. And the way that she disappears right at this moment of release mirrors how the president whisks her away to the Tower of Doors right as Ryota realizes that he has feelings for her. Right after this, we see the president bemusedly watching Yumeko's bubbles ascend in a spiral, representing the ascent of the spiral staircase that she takes up the Tower of Doors, which does lend a lot of credence to the idea that the anime might end at that point. The last little vignette shows Yumeko dancing.
I don't know what he's going on about with these moments.
Seem to be really enjoying it. Ultimately, both characters are incorrigible gamblers who delight thrill of risk for themselves and others, and they really
I kind of feel like these what's in an OP videos should be done once the series is finished, so you can actually reflect on the show, maybe? I mean, it's cool that he's referring to the manga stuff, because that's where it's come from.
Something seductively into Yumeko's ear, probably a proposal for the Tower of Doors gamble, and Yumeko seems to be really into it. We end on a repeat of the dancing feat that kicked off the OP, only this time, one pair vanishes in a puff of bubbles. Since both Yumeko and the president wear identical socks, it's left up to our interpretation who those feet belong to, just as it's uncertain which of them will end up destroying the other at the end of the story. It's also uncertain whether those feet that cut in between them are still Mary's. They could also be Sayaka's, since she also wears knee socks, which is another hint that the anime could end on her confrontation with Yumeko at the Tower of Doors. I hope that they don't rush to that point, though, as the series' strongest point so far has been its impeccable pacing. Regardless of where the anime goes, though, it's remarkable how much of the story they managed to sneak into this OP, all while making it look cool, trippy, and exciting.
Very stylish.
This is a strong contender for the best OP of the year so far. I just wish that the story itself actually lived up to the OP's hype. Now, I don't think Kakegurui is a bad show, or a bad manga for that matter. Like I said, I read the whole thing for this video on Bookwalker, and as a quirky, hypersexual high school drama comedy, it was a good read. I enjoyed it a lot. It's just that other anime handily beat it at the whole actual gambling thing.
Right.
Shows like Kaiji and No Game No Life are just better at making game strategies exciting and creating
Oh yeah, No Game No
high
Life's
stakes.
awesome at that.
That's a topic for another video, but speaking of No Game No Life, it's available on the Bookwalker
Very
store
good
as
segue
well,
there
and from
first.
now until August 8th, they're
Very
celebrating the
good.
release of the feature film prequel No Game No Life 0, as well as the
I still need to
English launch
see
of Volume
0.
6, with a giveaway for anyone who buys one of the light
Is it on
novels.
Crunchyroll?
Up for grabs
I'll
are a
have to check.
$100
I don't think it is.
PVC figurine from Aquamarine of Shiro in a swimsuit, and 10 exclusive posters
Sorry,
of
that's
Jibril
just
and
weird to
Shubi
me.
from the
Personally,
film.
I
And
think
if
it's
you use
weird.
the coupon code BASEMENT at checkout for a 600 yen discount, not only will you be able to enter this contest for just $2, not only will you be able to pick up where the anime left off and start reading the light novels, you'll also be given an extra chance to win one of 2 more No Game No Life posters that Bookwalker is giving away exclusively to viewers of
My
Mother's Basement.
God.
Now, bear in mind that that coupon will only work for accounts that have been created within the last few months and will only work once. But obviously, if you're creating a new Bookwalker account for the sake of entering the contest, you don't have to worry about those restrictions at all. It's also worth noting that you'll be entered to win one of those posters if you use that coupon to buy any
a lot of
book on the
stuff
store
on here that I've
costs more than
not
600
heard of.
yen before August 8th. Now, with that said, a bunch of Kodansha manga, including Chihaya Furu, Great Teacher Onizuka, Suredure Children,
Death
Altair,
Tokyo.
and Giant Killing, are on sale for 620 yen a pop, which means that you can get any one of those for the equivalent of 15 cents and win
Domestic
a poster.
girlfriend.
That is a crazy deal. Or if you buy Volume 6 of No Game No Life, you can get that poster as a beautiful 1920 by 1200 desktop wallpaper, ready to be
Cool.
blown up with Waifu 2X for your 4K screen enjoyment. No matter what you buy, though, remember that even if you lose, you get to read whatever manga or light novel you buy, which is exactly the kind of win-win gamble that would probably bore Yumeko Jabami
Yep.
to tears.
It
How's that
doesn't,
for a
like,
return
guarantee.
segue? Let me know in the comments below which girl from
Very good.
Kakegurui is your favorite, or if that's not your jam, what other OPs you'd like to see me cover, because I'm about to get back on the What's in an OP train in a big way now that I'm settled into my new place. And while you're down there, you should know that it is not a gamble to hit the subscribe button. You are guaranteed to get great videos about anime and sometimes video games sent to your inbox every single week. If you're itching to see more of me right now and you want to hear me talk about another Sayo Yamamoto production, then you should check out my discussion of how Yuri on Ice could potentially be improved right up here.
Alright,
Or
okay.
if you're interested in more money-related schemes, then you should check out this comparison between the first volume of Spice and Wolf's light novel and the anime. If this is the last I see of you today, though, I'm Jeff Thu, professional shitbag, signing out from my mother's basement.
Nice. That was cool. I like it. I like the little bits he adds to it that you wouldn't think of from watching it, because it's very quick. It's a very quick opening. But yeah, Kakegurui, I just thought it was a bit, like, the gambling wasn't really that great, if it makes any sense. It was very easy to just kind of like switch off, because it was just a lot of talking about a lot of nothing to me at some points. I was like, okay. But I will be checking out Mother's Basement. There's 2 other videos he's done. It's why Kakegurui is a terrible gambling anime, which I think is going to be good for that point alone that I just made. And Kakegurui is a bad character analysis as well. So I look forward to watching those, and I hope you guys are watch them along with me. So thank you guys very much for watching. What did you guys think of that? What did you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe if you haven't already, leave comments down below, let me know what I was watching to discuss in future videos, and I'll see you guys, all you guys, next time.